Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 8th of August. All right, now, as we switch over to the major currency pairs, as you should do each day, just have a quick look where they are, right? We're not really trying to work out what's happened yet. Just have a look at the major direction. Yesterday, we had the RBA meeting. They were pretty much just concerned about the trade policies, but Aussie ended up sort of popping above that resistance line around 74.15, stalled at 74.40 and is now sort of just drifting sideways. The Kiwi also just trading sideways and then popping up through the trend line, the same as Euro through 115.60. Sterling had a bit of a muted move. I guess that's because of all the negative sentiment from Brexit, but it too did sort of pop to the top side. We also had dollar CAD, which is a bit strange that it went topside whilst the other majors did as well, and a little bit of a glitch down in dollar yen and then back in the range. Right, so this is what you really need to be doing. You see these couple of moves here, right? Particularly, say, Aussie, Kiwi, Euro, and somewhat sterling. You need to identify what is actually driving this. Now, when we come over and check out the US dollar, okay, of course you're going to see the opposite move here on the dollar index. Okay, traded sideways through the level. The market got a little bit disorientated and it's drifted lower. Hit a new low there around 95. And it's back up just a little bit. Now, the main catalyst for all of this is the offshore dollar yuan, or the Chinese yuan itself. Now, I've just overlaid the Aussie dollar here on top of this. You can see what's going on, but the offshore yuan did take a bit of a nosedive from up around 687 yesterday, down sort of 600 points, down to 681 today. So it's broken lower. So the Chinese yuan has strengthened, right? If it strengthens, then the Aussie strengthens with it, Euro, Kiwi, and that's pretty much what's happening at the moment. This is a bit of a result of these trade wars, and it's just the start of what's actually happening at the moment, where things are going to escalate to. So if you're looking for, when you're trying to identify what's going on and you're looking at trade conditions, okay, you're really focusing on the Chinese yuan at the moment. Right, this is one of the key things that you need to work out. Where's the cash? What's moving the currencies? It's either a geopolitical event, which this is. It's either economic data or a central bank. It could be issues with the bonds, equities, or commodities. But we can isolate this one to the offshore or the Chinese yuan. It's moving around now a lot more. A lot more traders globally are focusing on it, and that's where the tensions really lie. Okay, and if you weren't sure about that, I'll just change it back to the main pages here. You look at the general news pages, okay, and you're going to start to see a lot more of this where there is a situation where the yuan is starting to come up. Obviously, the trade issues are going to intensify, and that's where that Chinese yuan is going to really come into play. Now, the US, just on the right here, finalised the next China tariff list, targeting another 16 billion in imports, right? They aren't done yet. So this is going to be an ongoing issue that we need to get comfortable with the yuan moving around and what impact it has on the other majors. Now, that move in dollar CAD, now there's reports of, like, the oil hasn't moved too much, but there's a rift between Saudi Arabia and Canada. The Canadians have let out some right activists, and Saudi Arabia aren't happy with that, and they're sort of talking about sort of ripping up wheat and barley deals and all sorts of things. So there's some major issues there. The Canadian IBPMI numbers were rather weak. I would suggest that had a major impact on that as well. Euro sterling is the one that is moving around. Okay, I think traders are going to Euro sterling over the Brexit deal because trading sterling itself has been a bit of a nightmare. So they are looking to probably take out the US dollar because it's caught up in this Chinese yuan or the Sino-US trade issue. And that's something we have to sort of work with. Dollar CAD also, as I said, we've still got NAFTA hanging over dollar CAD. OPEC are in there. There's everyone's sort of breaking down with regards what they're going to be producing and supplying us insofar as oil. And that's creating issues as well. All right, now, let me just come back to the main page. So when you are looking at the major currencies, right, so we've got we've got these moves that have been happening. There's not a lot to do right now. The only thing is you can adjust your support and resistance trend lines to where they need to be. Now, the Aussie's sort of broken high. We do have a resistance level up here around 74.60. You probably want to leave that trend line there just for the moment. Okay, it's going to act as support like it has been on the way back down. Now, with Euro, that trend line is broken, so I'm sort of just going to delete that. That breakdown in sterling here around 127, 129.80, I should say, where it broke down yesterday or Monday, and then it sort of came back and revisited this. This trend line is reasonably solid, but I would also start to draw into place here the next resistance trend line, which is sort of starting to track along this sort of level here. I still like that 129.80, 129.80 sort of level. Dollar CAD, well, you know, it's just getting pulled and pushed all over the place. It's very hard to call, but you can see the nice clean snap there of that trend line. Probably something to keep an eye on as we go through the next couple of sessions. Dollar yen also, I mean, this is one of the sleeping giant, as I keep saying. Okay, it's trading sideways with little knee jerks, you know, through the top side, through the downside. It isn't really going anywhere. And I'm a little bit surprised that it hasn't done something or a little bit more than what it has already with these tensions. Now, with that latest dip, all you're doing is adjusting your support trend line, okay? And that's what we're looking at now. It's back around the cloud and it's just trading sideways. So when you come to look at the piece together what we're doing today, well, first thing to do is make sure you do consider what's going on with the yuan, and then you start to look for the main economic data here. So really today, we've got the RBNZ inflation expectations. That's pretty much all we've got across the board, right? So the offshore yuan or the dollar yuan is going to be, I mean, the China yuan is going to be the one to look at. This RBNZ inflation expectation should be a bit of a precursor to the RBNZ interest rate decision tomorrow. All right, that's something you need to look at. Now, when you are coming back, now, sorry, let me just come back to the major currency pairs here. When you're looking at the major currencies and you're trying to work out, okay, these things are moving with the offshore yuan, you're trying to work out which one's which. Now, if you read the various news pages, they will say, oh, yeah, everything in Europe is moving with the yuan. You know, it's moving, well, the euro's moved up about 30 or 40 points. It's a lot different to the 600 points that the yuan has appreciated. Aussie's had a more aggressive move. And you can see that's because China, right, imports all of Australian products, not just, I was going to say a few. It is the biggest importer of Australian products, so it's very important for Australia. The Kiwis are a little bit caught up in it, not so much. It's trading sideways as we wait for the inflation expectations and the RBNZ. But an easier way to look at this, all right, if I just come back over here to the US dollar page and have a bit of a look here, obviously the euro is going down. You think, well, okay, that's going down, that's great. But where is the major influence? And if I bring up the correlation matrix, I've just got the, I've just sort of whipped this together, and this is what you can do when you do find a focal point. So on the top here, I've got the Chinese yuan or the offshore dollar yuan. Now I've got all the currency pairs and the crosses. Now, if you have a look down the bottom here, okay, Aussie dollar has got the biggest correlation, almost 0.72%. So 72% of the time, it is correlating negatively with the dollar yuan, right? So that's because of just the way they're quoted, right? If the Aussie was quoted US or dollar Aussie, well then it would be the same. So when you're looking for pairs and you're thinking of what's going on, maybe get a correlation matrix like this one and really focus in on the key things. Funnily enough, I'm not surprised, to be honest, gold has a 0.7, like a negative correlation, just by the way it's quoted again. But gold is starting to really pick up, and that's because these tensions do create a bit of a need to go towards a safe haven. So if you are looking to trade the major currencies on the back of the offshore yuan, focus on the Aussie. That's first and foremost, and then the other currencies fit into place. The Kiwi, 0.65% or 65%, and then only 50% of the time euro and sterling. And then you go to dollar yen, which is a bit of a surprise. It's not really correlating at all. And then you go down the list, Aussie yen, Kiwi yen. Well, obviously the Aussie and Kiwi are the two focal points, and gold. So make sure you keep an eye on that. through your trading sessions, and you can really change the time frame to be shorter to make sure that you are looking at the right sort of correlation. So don't get yourself, as I said, like you look at the, let me just come back to the major charts here. You look at your charts and you'll be trying to work out, okay, which one of these currencies, if I'm trading the yuan, okay, which one of these currencies is moving with it? Well, this one here, okay, that correlation matrix will tell you which one. Of course, the other currencies, because they have a general correlation, they are moving together, but the one raw nerve is the Aussie dollar, and then secondly is the Kiwi, right? Now, the dollar CAD is caught up in its own issues, and if I just come back up here and have a quick look at the data from yesterday, you'll see where the answers are, why these currencies are moving. Now, the IBPMI, right, it's second tier number, but it's actually pretty important. Look at the numbers here. This is sort of really falling off. So I'd be, partly that move in dollar CAD is just based on the CAD weakness, right? That's why the dollar's rallied against that. I mean, it's so much weaker than the US dollar at this stage, which was falling against everything else. And that's one of the main reasons what's going on there. So just keep an eye on that as we go through the trade day. As you can see, there's some housing finance numbers out in Australia. Not a big deal. I'm not even going to worry about, obviously, the Spanish data. And then you come through into the US, North American session. There's not a hell of a lot to look at there. So I wouldn't be really, getting yourself all bent out of shape waiting for something to come out of the US or really the European session, because there's not a lot there. And the next major event is the RBNZ, which is later on tomorrow or first thing in the Asian day. So really, and then you come down to the Chinese numbers. This is where it's going to really heat up, because that's where the tariffs are going to hit. They're going to hit the Chinese numbers, and that's where the best trading opportunities, I think, are going to be. Coming forward in the coming months, this trade balance, this is going to be a bonza, right? That's what Trump is targeting, and that's going to really blow out, or should blow out for the Chinese. We'll have to see how that goes. If the yuan keeps weakening as it is, well, then there probably won't be too much of a change there, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. All right, so that's pretty much it, guys. It's one of those things that you really have to be aware of, that the main raw nerve for the market, I think it's pretty easy to see what it is. It's the offshore yuan. We've got a very close focus on that. With that correlation matrix, you can see the Aussie and the Kiwi, the two most important pairs, which is no real surprise. But keep an eye on this as we go through the day. There's not much to do here except have a look at the RBNZ inflation expectations. As I said, a bit of a precursor for tomorrow's RBNZ. And if anything, make sure you do have up the offshore yuan. Obviously, that is the major pair to look at. And if you actually want to have a quick look over at the yen crosses, this is where you can start to sort of piece together what the hell's going on. So we've got this new level. Let me just adjust this dollar yen support line. Okay, you see how it's just enough. When there's geopolitical issues, there's a lot more false breaks than any other time, right? And everyone's trying to get themselves set for the next big move in dollar yen, but it just isn't coming. So there's a break to the top side, a break to the downside, and we're straight back to where we were. Now, the Japanese traders should be relatively confused today with the currency sitting in the cloud. So we've got Aussie yen higher, euro just starting to euro yen a little bit higher, sterling yen lower, CAD yen lower, and Kiwi yen sideways. So really no uniformity across the yen crosses, which tells me that no one really knows what's going on. Okay, and but with going forward through today's trading, you really want to keep an eye on Kiwi yen. Okay, that's where the inflation expectations could come into play. And you know what? I think getting into the Kiwi yen above the top of this cloud is a good idea, because if the RBNZ are hawkish on their inflation numbers, which I actually think they'll be, like, if anything, dovish, then that's probably the best level to get into a trade here. So I'll look at that for the next best trades. Otherwise, unfortunately, just take it easy, relax. We're waiting for the next, good, solid numbers, which is probably the Chinese CPI, PPI numbers tomorrow. That's where the main focus will be for global traders. You know, it makes this Asian session very important. As I said, I've got the Aussie overlaid here on the Yuan chart. Don't forget, this is dollar China or dollar Yuan, right? So, you know, as it goes down, the Yuan is appreciating. As it goes up, it's falling. So we've got some key levels here. Just keep an eye on those, and we'll piece it all together. Any questions, guys? I'll see you in the trade zone. Have a great trade day, and all the very best for your trading. Cheerio.